ईशावतारं परमेशमेड्यं तं रामकृष्णं शिरसा नमामि। ओम स्थापकाय च धर्मस्य सर्वधर्मस्वरूपिणे अवतारवरिष्ठाय रामकृष्णाय ते नमः। जननीं शारदां देवीं रामकृष्णं जगद्गुरुं पादपद्मे च प्रणमामि। ओम peace, peace, peace and all. I was thinking where to start and what to start. That's all. See, when a definite subject is given, it's very easy to stick to it and say something about it.
You can start with some of your retreats and then
Stories.
shift.
Start some story.
Or the retreat story or something and then.
There is time limit, at least.
No time limit, 1 hour.
Ah, thank you. See, there was a lecturer who went on and on and on endlessly. So suddenly he looked at his time and said, "I'm very sorry, there's no clock in front of me, otherwise I'd have." So one of the members in the audience stood up and said, "Don't worry, sir, we are not looking at the clock anymore, we are looking at the calendar behind it." Of course, there is Thakur sitting there, you see, not the calendar. That way I am saved. See, when I meet intimate friends and devotees of the center who have been there for a long time, there will always be someone here or there who will come forward and say, very quietly, privately, though I am talking publicly now, they have something very secret to express. What is it? "Swami, for 25 years I am here. Nothing seems to happen." I said, "Look here, in the other fields of life, if nothing happens, you move from there. The very fact you are stuck on here, so something must be happening, otherwise why should you be here?" At the same time, when we think about it, it often looks, having made the choice of spiritual life, we feel really stuck, nothing much happening. Because often we expect something spectacular to happen. That's what they are missing. It's not necessary in spiritual life spectacular things to happen. If in this long course of effort, spiritual life, if our angularities have been rubbed, if we have become a little more kind, considerate, loving, sympathetic, I think it's much success has been achieved. Because in this world, a little sympathy, kindness and consideration is lacking. As one Christian missionary asked me one day, "Swami, what is most needed today, the modern crisis, meet the modern crisis?" I simply said, "A bit of Christian love." That's very true, you see. I used to have a driver in India. In this country you can't get drivers easily. There even ordinary people also do have, because the drivers do not have much work to do. So they must find for a small money even they are willing to come and. So he was a very intelligent man. It's unfortunate. His classmate becomes the general secretary of the Ramakrishna Mission and president, and he remains a humble poor driver. But he was really a very intelligent man, very spiritually oriented life. So one day, a group of staff in the dispensary where we used to work, went for a picnic. And there, about 7, 8 of us, he was talking to a young boy whom I had picked up to work, learn the work. It was those days 17, 18, 19 maybe. So he was telling, we were in the river bed where a lake has come in Shillong now. So he picked up a stone and very round, smooth. And he started telling him, look here, Jita, that was his name, the boy. I asked this stone, how did you manage to become so round, smooth, and wonderful like a marble? How did you manage it? I asked him. Do you know his answer? He was telling him, all this I overheard their conversation because they were just sitting there. Maybe I'm making it a little spicy. And over the years, you add things, you see. But the bare facts are there. Then the stone said, look here, my friend, it's a long, long process. I was there on the top of that hill, well entrenched in the earth. God knows, hundreds of years, perhaps thousands of years. Rains came, the sun beat on me, the winds blew over me, and dislodged me from there at last. So the next rainy season came. That's a heavy rainfall area. The minimum we have about 200 inches, the maximum about 700 inches. So that's the place. So the rain dislodged him after all and started pushing him down the hills. So went on rolling every rainy season, a little here, a little there, and rubbing against others like him who were on the way. So by the time he reached the river bed, much of his angularities had gone. And as he started rolling round and round and going down the stream, this is what has happened. That is true for most of us. For God knows, in this long process of evolution, Indians are very clever. How many? 64 crores of lakhs of lives, you see.
84 lakhs.
84. I don't know how they calculated it. See, 1 lakh is equal to 100,000, you see. So 84. That's the long process. Evolution takes such a long time to come through. So we have somehow come to the human level. But still a lot of angularities are there. They are there to bother us constantly. So, having come such a long journey, we find still our angularities are not gone. We are stuck here and there. We suffer. These angularities are not necessarily external. They are internal. They are worse angularities. I simply cannot bear him. I cannot put up with him. How often we repeat all this? These are the internal angularities that have grown with us. So just because he has taken initiation and come here for 20 years, he would like to see that everything free. How can it be? In one of our scriptures, there's a verse which beautifully tells the situation. Janmantara sahasreshu ya buddhir bhavita pura tameva bhajate jantuhu upadesho nilarthaka. Simply giving a little upadesha, teaching, you can't achieve anything, useless, he says. Why? For these 84 lakhs of lives, he has been building up tendencies, insulating himself against any good influence that can come upon him. All sorts of wrong tendencies, wrong propensities. So we have been building up. So even now, Even when I realize it, the mind goes only that way. Because correction is not easy, it has to come from within. Some sadhu told me a story. Indian sadhus, especially in the place where I was in Vrindaban for some time, very hot place. The rectangular buildings, there are plenty of verandas, and any sadhu can go from the temple, he will get a little food, sleep there. Of course, they don't carry bedrolls, nor beds are provided for them. He has an extra piece of cloth, and with that he travels and he just sleeps. And after all, what such wandering sadhus have very little possessions. Maybe he has a water pot, or maybe a few annas also sometimes. For a rainy day he keeps. So they were all sleeping in the veranda, a group of monks. And every day something is lost from them. Little things. But there are prized possessions about them, you see. So it's gone. But on search, next day they will find it somewhere there only. So it went on for a few days. So this particular sadhu became a little inquisitive. He was an educated man, like us, you see, he had become a monk. He said, "You must see what's wrong with this situation here." So he kept an eye on this fellow, pretended to sleep, kept an eye on what's happening. So when everybody had slept, after a couple of hours, one of them got up and went round. Of course, he has been observing who has what the whole day, see. So he picks a thing from one place and went and kept it somewhere else, and picked up somebody else's something and kept it somewhere else. So this sadhu got up, and said, "What is the matter? You're not stealing, you're only keeping things here and there. Why?" He said, "Sir, what shall I say? I was a thief before I became a monk." Huh? So if he doesn't steal something every day, he doesn't get sleep. But at the same time, as a sadhu, how can he steal other stuff? So he will take it and give it away somewhere, hide it. That satisfies his thief's instincts in him. Huh? So when that is satisfied, he gets his good sleep. So, see, these tendencies built up over a period do not disappear just like that, just because we have taken an initiation or we have sitting morning and evening and meditating. No, it goes back. Simply because we are reading or we are trying, it just doesn't disappear. It has to wear out. So we have to go through the mill. There is no other way. And that's why, you say, that's a nice English saying. See. In engagement it's a diamond ring. Huh? It's a precious stone. In marriage it's a grinding stone. So that all those angularities are rubbed properly. So in our interior life also it is like that. We have to see those angularities are rubbed off by self-effort, not by somebody else rubbing it. Because if it's external, somebody can do it, a bit of plastic surgery. Otherwise, one has to make it from inside. So it's a thing that we have got to go on and on and on. The question is, where do we start? The first is thought. That's why, especially in the Catholics, reading scriptures is something they insist upon. Because the more you read scriptures, you are sowing good thoughts. And thoughts precede action. So first thought, so good thoughts must be cultivated. So morning and evening meditation, very good. At least something. Though the old samskaras would throw it out. Some of you who have travelled in India, you know what happens in a third class compartment. It's already crowded, and you try to get in. And all of them keep you out. They themselves somehow have got in, but they don't want any new person to come in. So it is like that. These tendencies and propensities which we have cherished, life after life, and they are to be transformed. So put a new thought. It doesn't sit there long. Do it again and again, like the third class compartment, you see. So at last they will allow you to standing space. And then you put your way through. Till it reaches 50-50, always you're defeated. The wrong tendencies in us do not allow the good new ones to take root. But if you persist long enough, they will leave root. So first, a good thought. That's why scriptures must be read every day. A little meditation and japam is very essential. By doing this, I am constantly rubbing it in. Sometimes it's not very fruitful, sometimes it's fruitful. But if you try long enough, it must. The evil propensities also may have taken root, because I have tried long enough to put them there. It didn't happen overnight. All of you have experienced first day a person smokes a cigarette. Nasty. Everybody will say, isn't it? But do it for a second time and a third time and an nth time, then you're hooked. Same thing is true of drinking alcohol. First time when you take, it's not at all nice. And if you stop it at that, you don't become addicted to it at all. Because habit, I do not know how to told this spelling of the habit, you see. The habit, once formed, is very difficult to get rid of. So we must take care to make good habits. The spelling indicates it. H-A-B-I-T. If H is removed, a bit remains. If A is removed, bit remains. If B is removed, it remains. If T is removed, I remains. So we must make good habits. So the scriptures, the teachings of a teacher whom you have met, known, in whom you have confidence, that is what is called Shraddha. Shastrasya Guruvakyasya Satyabuddhyavadharana Sa Shraddha Katita Sadbhajya Vastu Upalabhyate. If you want to reach the truth, first a little faith. It doesn't mean you accept anything that comes your way. Think over, use your intelligence, discrimination. That's why Viveka, discrimination is the first condition of teachings in the scriptures. Ado nitya nistya viveka parigamyate. So that is the first thing. You are able to discriminate right and wrong. To be or not to be is the question, you see. We are all a bit of amulets. So what to do, what not to do every time. So first we must come to some, look around, shop around, there is nothing wrong. But please settle down somewhere. How the whole life, if this process goes on, what is the hope? Simply I end up a skeptic. So that I don't gain anything much from that kind of life. So after going through the process a little, come to some, because once we have the faith, we develop a different perception. See, part of devotion and knowledge, Sri Ramakrishna says in devotion there is faith, you see. And he says, it's like you can go to the inner apartments. You belong to that category. Otherwise only outside. So this faith is a very important thing. Because once we have that faith, our whole perceptions change. Faith sees the invisible, believes the incredible, and is rewarded with the impossible. So that is the main business. We have got to develop that faith first. And as we develop that faith and try to build up our interior life, everything starts changing. Nothing miraculous happens, but certainly things start changing. You must have that faith and go on making effort relentlessly. That's the only way. When Arjuna told Sri Krishna, It's not possible to control the mind. You are talking all this dry philosophy. My mind doesn't accept it. Vayo rivasu dushkaram. That's how it's just like taking a little air and holding it like that. So it doesn't say, can't catch it. So then he says, asamsayam mahabaho manor durnigrahanchalam abhyasin tu kaunteya vairagyena cha grahyate. Abhyasa and vairagya, he says. Of course, you see, normally in the book it's translated repeated habit, and vairagya is renunciation. Yes, that's right. But then if you tell that way to the people, they will say, I'm not ready for it yet. So vairagya is not ready for it. You see, after long thought about it, I have come to a little, perhaps twist the meaning a little out of it. If it is to our convenience, why not do it? Huh? Normally, in our life, in our thought, in a pattern, meeting people, whatever we do, that which brings happiness to others and to myself, repeat it again and again. That's abhyasa. From morning till evening, we come into contact with all sorts of people. So whatever we do that brings happiness to others and to myself, repeat it. That's abhyasa. And whatever brings pain to others and to myself, vairagya, renounced it. Because material things you may accumulate. Oh, throw it away, I have given it up. And then the rest of the life brag about what you have given it up. You are still holding it with the mind. And that's not renunciation. How few are able to rise to that height? But at least these simple things we can all follow. The more we do it, the more the interior transformation takes place. So that's where real spiritual life comes into the picture. Very good. You have met your teacher, he has given you a mantra, he has given you certain instructions, so you practice morning and evening very regularly. And you all know what happens in the hours of meditation. Huh? We are there sitting, somehow struggling, the mind goes out. So, all right, bring it back and try again. It's good. I'm not against it. Huh? It's very good. But we must remember, that's not enough. What do I do between these 2 hours? That's also important. If I am not able to manage myself and sail smoothly between these 2 hours of meditation, all that I conserve in the morning and collect, it simply leaks and disappears by the evening hour comes. And what I do in the evening, of course, comes in the morning. So every morning when we get up, there's only an empty pot. Nothing in it. So I have done it for 20 years. And still it's empty. Because it's a leaky pot I have. The first thing is to close that leak. Then only something happens. Something accumulates. So, morning and evening meditation is essential, but also to conduct the life between these 2 hours is more important. Because it's there we live and spend most of our time. So, the test for our interior life is there, or it's like the battery in the car. Well charged, and you put it in, but the dynamo must keep on recharging, charging it continuously. Otherwise, the battery goes flat very quickly. So these little things that we do from morning till evening, little acts of kindness, compassion and love, they are the ones that slowly keep or extend the life of the battery within. So that we have got to remember. It's very easy to pray to God. He is there on the altar and cook and offer, ring the bell. Because he cannot do anything else, you see. We are sure, if God wasn't me cook a plate of food and keep it there, and by the time you close your eyes and meditate, he has finished it. Next day we think twice, something wrong. Now, we used to have a small poem written in your school children, you see. Koluru Padugusu, that was the little baby. There was a boy, there was a small, very devoted family. The father always, whatever was cooked in the house was offered and then eaten. That was his job. So mother cooked with great devotion. That was offered. So one day it so happened that morning his father had to go out of the house. See, normally the boys alone are offered. Mother could have offered, but that was not the rule anyway in those days. I don't know what happens now. So he asked the boy, hardly 7-8 years, you offer food to God. So he said, very good. Boy had seen food every day, cooked and taken a plate inside, and he had not noticed it comes back, you see. And if it goes in, he had noticed it. So he said, very good. Will God eat if I give it? He said, oh yes, he will do it. So at the right time, mother carried a big plate full of food and kept it in the shrine and called the boy, you go and offer it to God. So he went, kept there, and after he doesn't know the formalities of that, he told him, jolly good, you see, I have brought it today, you eat, he told him. So he sat there for a while. God is not eating. So all right, he said, anyway, take your own time, I am here. Nothing happened, it is there, the plate full of food. Meanwhile, his mother became impatient outside. The boy didn't know what to do, anyway he locked the door and saw sitting inside. So mother called, he said, what about you? Have you know, the offering must be finished now, bring it out. He said, no, he has not taken it yet. And so he sat and appealed to God, look here, what will my father think now? When he brings, jolly good, you eat, and when I bring, you don't eat. Why? So you're going to eat. So he sat there, wept, prayed, nothing happens. So meanwhile, mother second time and the third time she is trying to knock at the door. So he simply, with great feeling, started weeping and telling, please take it. And the plates became empty. And he opened the door and brought the empty plates. Mother said, where is the food? He said, God ate it. He said, God ate it? Of course, she can't believe her son is capable of eating that quantity of food. But it's not there. That's what faith can do. And you all know the story of Shillong Ashrama. That faith felt and guidelessness of a child. So that's what should bring us these spiritual benefits. So whatever activities we may be doing, whatever disciplines we may be following, with great faith, we have got to keep on doing it. But earnestness, sincerity is necessary. And this transformation can come by values, as I said, which we need to practice from morning till evening. They are very simple values. But we always want complicated things. And simple things are given, we can't take it. There used to be one Balram Maharaj in many places. He is now in Maharaj still, I think, isn't he? Balram Maharaj, who used to be Udbodhan and later on in Institute of Culture, it was the Rasa Road. One man came and asked him, Swami, this color of your cloth is very fine. How do you do it? He said, nothing. Take the matti and make a solution and put it in. This is what happens. He said, oh, you're joking. He said, all right, come tomorrow, I'll tell you the prescription. So he made a big prescription for next day, what temperature to boil and what to do and all that. And then when that big thing was given, he said, that's possible. Simple, no. He won't accept it. That's what happens to us in our spiritual life also. Simple things, we don't want it. We want something very complicated. In the 16th chapter of the Gita, there is Daivi Sampat and Asuri Sampat. The values that constitute a person of divine qualities. And Daivi Sampat Vimokshaya Nibandhaya Asurimata. The opposite of them cause bondage. And what are these? Daivi Sampat that leads to liberation. You have a beautiful translation in Swami Prabhupanda's book. Abhayam sattva samshuddhi jnana yoga vyavastitihi dhanam damascha yajnascha swadhyayastapachapam ahimsa satyam akrodha tyagasyantara vaishunam daya bhute shaloluptam madhavam hrira chapanam tejekshama dusichaucham madroho nati manata bhavanti sampadam daivim abhyatosi pandava. What are they? Very simple. Abhayam, fearlessness. Sattva samshuddhi, purity of motive in your actions. Jnana yoga vyavastitihi, discriminating mind. Dhanam, to be charitable. Damascha, self-controlled. Yajnascha, doing activities that bring good to others also. Swadhyaya, study of books that help to keep our mind and good and noble thoughts. Tapa, self-control at the level of the body, mind and speech. Uprightness. Ahimsa, non-injury to others. Satya, truthfulness. Akrodha, not getting angry. See, angry, sometimes people say, unless you get a little annoyed, things do not work. But you see, it's all right. Sometimes it may work. Somebody read a beautiful sentence. Righteous indignation is no virtue. Sometimes it may work, but it becomes part of your daily diet. You can't digest it. Because you are always indignant, because there are things going wrong everywhere all around. Are things I don't like. So one must be very careful about this anger. Anger is like a double-edged sword, It cuts the other and myself. In fact, the container is affected much more than the other person. So if I am indignant from morning till evening, it affects me. It doesn't go anything to him. Because it raises my blood pressure, not his. So at least for my own interest, I must be careful. So akrodha, tyaga, a spirit of renunciation. Apaishanam, thriftiness. Even thriftiness is a spiritual virtue. Daya bhuteshu, a general sympathy, love, kindness. Not being greedy is a spiritual virtue. So like that, these are the values. Very simple. To be ordinary, decent people in a society, we've got to practice these things. We don't need to do anything extraordinary. These small things must be done, and must be done well. We're all waiting for that big opportunity when we will show our. Only those who learn to do little things perfectly will ever acquire the skill to do big things easily. When the big thing comes, how can I cope with it if I'm not prepared for it? That skill must be there in the hand. So that must be learned in the simple little things of life. It's very important. Otherwise we become cynics. Very pungent people in life. I heard a beautiful sentence the other day, which I have registered. I hope I will be able to tell you correctly. There are some people, Wherever they go, they bring great happiness. There are some others. Whenever they go, they bring great happiness. So which are you? You have to answer. So life is like that. So these little values, little virtues, which we acquire in our normal day-to-day life, they are the ones they accumulate to create an atmosphere or to create a change in our personality. And these little virtues help us to neutralize the wrong tendencies that have grown with us. And then our mind becomes free and clean and wholesome. So, Sri Ramakrishna used to say, pure mind and pure is, there you have God himself, he says. So that purity has to come. That comes only by these little things. They are little, but when they all join together, that creates the purity. Shankara, in one of his Vikshudamnetik, Vishuddhe Sati Jaitasmin Mukti Karapalayate. Your mind is pure, the whole being becomes pure. Then the divine spark that's there within, it manifests. That's freedom. Thou shalt know the truth, and truth shall make you free. That confrontation with truth directly, that happens when this barrier, which we have built due to our own lapses in the past, are dropped. And they cannot happen overnight. This is a slow process. Keep on doing it regularly, steadily, and cherishing certain values in relation to others around us. When we keep on doing it, then everything shines forth. Little things must be done perfectly. In our normal day-to-day life, we keep on doing it. And the more we do, the more spiritual perfection comes to us. It doesn't come from somewhere else. It is there within, and it manifests. When these barriers are gone, the whole reality shines forth. See, Shankara in the Vikshudamni itself, in the beginning he says, Durlabham trayame vaitat daivanugraha hetukam. By God's grace we have three things you get. Manushyatvam, mumukshutvam, mahavurusha samshraya. To be born as a human being, because in this long process of evolution, you could have been anywhere. You have come to the human level. Mumukshutvam, you have a desire to know the truth. And then you have found someone who can help you. That's also not easy. I must be a deserving candidate, then only I will find him. Because these days, that's Tulsidas long back told this, Guru mile lakh lakh seshya na mile ek. The gurus are galore there everywhere these days. Advertising ticket. Somebody used to send me for some time after my last visit. I don't know from where. Whole 25 sheets of that paper, all sorts of religious advertisements. So there are plenty of gurus, but the qualified student you can't get. So that's why Shankara says, Adhikarinam achasthe phalasiddhir visheshataha. You are achieving. The goal depends upon your being a deserving candidate. Undeserving, you don't get anything here. Deserving candidate. Upaya, deshakaladhya. The method you adopt, the place you are, and so on. Santyasmin sahakarinaha. They help you a little. So that's the effort we have got to keep it up. Just deserve it. Doesn't matter. What is yours knows you and it will come to you. You needn't be searching for it. It is searching you as much as you are looking for it. So it's it. So do what ought to be done. The rest will be taken care of. Shankara, in another place in this very Vikshuramani says, you see, Ita konvasti mudhatma yastu swarthe pramadyati durlabham manusham deham prapya tatrapi paurusham. Having got this human birth, is there a foolish man who spends all his time and energy in selfish pursuits? So that's another problem. Selfishness. Oh, it assumes all sorts of forms, the selfishness. And simply finds excuses to assert itself. The ego, fattens on everything. Whatever opportunities it gets, it don't spare. I hope I will get it. Very interesting. So the ego fattens on holiness as much as on sin, on riches as much as poverty. It misses no opportunity to fatten itself like that. So it's a beautiful sentence. I recently got it somewhere. See, that's what happens. So we have got to be very, very careful in our spiritual life how these things come in our way, and we try to avoid, but our own attachments tie us down. So we must carefully avoid these things in our life. That's the only way that we can build up our inner life, and ultimately the spiritual fruition must come to us. I do not know what else to say this evening. I thought I'll just share some of these thoughts which I've cherished some time or other for my own inner life. We have got another 5-10 minutes. If you ask any question, I'll try to answer. I see that I can get this.
Ask anybody.
What about mechanical job? Does it do any good? Mechanical job, does it do any good?
Mechanical japam.
Oh yes. Even mechanical thing will help. I was just telling you about that piece of stone that rolled down the side of the hill. It was just mechanical rolling down. If such a transformation can come into just a piece of stone, it must do something with us also, isn't it? It's a mechanical act. It must do something for us. So what we call mechanical is not really mechanical, because we are only trying to shape or reshape the mind that has taken a particular form. And by doing this, keep on taking it. The ego fattens on holiness just as much as on worldliness, on poverty as on our riches, on austerity as on luxury. There is nothing the ego will not cease to inflate itself. So one has to be very careful how we do.
Swami, how do you differentiate between your ego and your self-confidence?
When somebody else has it, it's ego. When I have it, it is ego. in a way it's good. I can see the other man, because when I look at others, I look at them through the ego. When I look at myself, I drop my ego and look at myself and say, oh, what an angel I am. So by seeing others, I can learn a lot of things, you see. At least we must pray, a prayerful man, a person who desires spiritual life. When he sees such things others doing, then he will at least pray humble and say, I hope I will not do it in my life. That's the only way we can. Each day is like a furrow lying before us. Our thoughts, desires and actions are the seed that each minute we drop into it without seeming to perceive it. The furrow is finished. We commence upon another, then another, again another. Each day presents a fresh one, and so on to the end of life. Sowing and ever sowing, and all we have sown springs up, grows, and bears fruit, almost unknown to us. So in this thought, is there not something to think and reflect?
Swami, is mechanical japa that has not touched the heart?
If we continue long enough, it is bound to touch the heart. You see, what happens, you keep on mechanically doing, sometime or other start thinking, what am I doing, what for? The moment that thought comes, it's something new, you turn over the new leaf. So start questioning and trying to find something must happen, otherwise why is this? Then an analysis starts and a cleansing process starts, then it touches the heart. Often we carry on like that. That's why a little thinking and reading is also, see, at the human level in this long process of evolution, we have become self-conscious. But that's not adequate. We must become reflective self-consciousness. That's whatever we are doing, we must reflect on things. So if we are doing things like this mechanically, I must think over it. Why am I doing like this? Is there any meaning? Or just a useless activity? The moment you start analyzing it, then you start feeling also about it. That's the importance. Think. Reading with this. Oh yes, please.
Well, I mean, I wanted to know more about that. It seems like many times like that I have felt like if I had been aware of myself, if I had paid attention, I wouldn't have done such a thing, or I would have done this other thing. And regretting it just seems to like not to help. It just means that I fume and fuss with myself a while, then I go back and forget again. But how to bring about to see the opportunity when the tendency to use that opportunity is not present.
Yes, by reflection,
Yeah.
slowly we awaken our ability to recognize before it happens. But one has to think over. Something happens, not I simply leave it at that. I think over why did I do it. So the more I bring reflection into my inner awareness, then I'll be able to recognize it before it happens.
But how? See, if I say why to myself, it doesn't help me to think why.
No, you have to answer that question. Simply asking alone will not do. You have to answer it yourself. Then only, you see, any amount of answers you may get from outside, it's not enough. Somebody is telling me all that, but I must accept it. and then try to see whether there is any truth in it. Then only I'll be able to change it. I think I will stop this talk by reading one more small quotation which I collect, How few there are who would thus dare address God each night. Lord, deal with me tomorrow as I have this day dealt with others. Those to whom I was harsh and from malice, or to show my own superiority, expose their faults. Others to whom from pride or dislike I refuse to speak. One I have avoided, another I cannot like because she displeases me. I will not forgive, to whom I will not show any kindness. And yet, let us never forget that sooner or later that God will do unto us even as we have done unto them. Thank you.